Welcome to our series, Leading Voices.
Hi, I'm Courtney, VP of AI and Digital. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Sandra, who's our Chief Information Officer at Transcom. As a woman driving change in a field often dominated by men, her perspective is going to make this a truly inspiring conversation. We'll explore her career journey in CX, the lessons she's learned along the way, and the advice she has for others building their own paths in this space. But first, let's start with a quick fire warm-up. Sandra, tell us a little about yourself.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Courtney. So I'm super happy to be here. Who am I? I'm a small Sandra from Croatia that is working in a big global company called Transcom, and I'm in a position of being a CIO for the last 2 years.
Thank you, Sandra. And can you take us back to the beginning and tell us what was your first job?
So my first job after the college job, so I will not mention the student jobs that we were all having during college. So after the college, my first job was actually to be a scientist on an institute called Ruđer Bošković, which is one of the biggest institutes here in Croatia. And my job was building a grid of computers all over the Europe together with the CERN, if you know, the Switzerland Institute for that area. So I've started my career as a scientist.
That is really exciting. That's an interesting job. And I have heard that you started your leadership journey very early in your career, but I wanted to start with, what one word would you use to describe your leadership style?
I would say situational, because I'm a strong believer in a situational leadership as a style, simply because I believe it's the responsibility of a leader to adapt himself to the situation, to his team, or to her team, just in order to be able to give the opportunity to the team to grow, but also at the same time bring the best value that those people in your team can actually give back to the organization.
That's so important, isn't it? That's such a big piece of leadership.
Yep.
How did you go from being a scientist to CX?
Yeah, so my scientific career was pretty short. It was pretty soon when I realized that I'm actually a woman built for business, not a woman built for science. So my second job was a network engineer in the B2B telecom industry. And in that activity, we haven't actually had any CX processes in the tech organization for our business customers. So actually, my assignment was to build CX processes, journeys for our business customers at that time. And then as my career started to develop, then it was also for retail and residential customers, then for wholesale customers. So I would say this is how my career has actually started. And then it shaped in different variations until today.
I see. Was there a moment or a challenge that shaped your leadership?
So I started being a leadership at a very young age. I would say right now too early. I was 24 and I was a female leader, female engineer who was leading 10 male engineers. So it was challenging by the age and by the level of knowledge as well at the same time. And I mean, I would say that I'm learning new situations every day. Even now, after 20 years of being a leader, I have these situations where I'm learning from and adapting my style, adapting my knowledge, adapting my execution. But there was one situation in that period of time where one of my best engineers said to me, Sandra, I want to leave this team. I'm not developing myself enough in this team. And I would say this was a little bit of a kick for me in order to understand that I need to invest more in educating myself around leadership, learning more, not trying to copy my behavior to the behavior of the team. And I would even say that this was the time when I discovered the situational leadership as a style and then started to build on top of it all the time later in the future. Yeah.
I have to say, from working with you, I'm not surprised at all that you have had 20 years of leadership, let's say practice. That makes sense. As a woman leader, I would love to have your input and advice on how women can shape the future of CX technology.
I would say that expected answer would be that the impact of females or women in tech would be that we are giving more empathy to the building AI models, that we are supporting also of AI models not being biased, which they are today. They're more, I would say, oriented to the general population rather than focused on not being biased from the diversity perspective, not only males and females, but also other diversity aspects. But I would say this is something that is going to be a focus for everybody who has a passion for it, passion for diversity, not necessarily females. But there is also one topic about women and our experience in day-to-day life that we are bringing to work, is we have this natural, I would say, capability of making things structured. So in this AI world where everything is a buzzword, where there's so much noise and so much new opportunities that are knocking on your door, I think that the most important thing is how to structure that you are bringing the best value out of the technology in the CX environment. Because in the CX environment, the value is something that we simply cannot negotiate about. This is something that needs to be focus number one, and the value for this one is an imperative for us. So I believe that women are going to be shaping how to implement AI and technology by keeping the CX values an imperative.
Oh, I appreciate that very much. I think that women are absolutely going to be shaping the future of AI. So I'm happy to hear that you agree. As women grow their careers, what advice would you give them to advocate for themselves in the workplace?
Mm-hmm. So I do have one framework that I'm using pretty often. I started to using it in the business analysis processes, because I was always telling to everybody whom I mentored or who I've led or who I've coached, it's like you always need to ask two questions. Why are you doing something, and how will you measure the success of doing that activity? And then I realized that this kind of a framework I can implement almost in every area of my activities. And right now, if I would put it in a workplace, and a topic that is being quite often mentioned on the market and where I'm very passionate about, is how women are actually negotiating about their promotion in the workplace. And you can also actually use the same framework. Why do I want this promotion? You need to answer that kind of a question for yourself. Why do I want this? Why do I think that this is the best next step for myself? But you also need to answer this question, why is it good for a company? This is the answer that you need to come in front of your manager with, these two answers for yourself and for the company and for the manager. If you manage to resolve that kind of a step, then you go into a next step, how we are measuring success. So again, success that you are measuring for yourself, why are you doing this? Because of the salary. You are doing this because of the new knowledge that you are going to be getting, because of a different experience. So you need to know how to measure the success for yourself, but also you need to be prepared to present to the manager what kind of a success you are proposing, and then validate together with him about how you will be measuring that kind of a success. And when you answer these two questions, then you are entering into the negotiation table like a transaction, not like an emotional activity. This is something that us women often go to, like, I deserve it, nobody recognizes it, it's time, it has been a while that I haven't. All of these things are emotional things that are making you weaker at the negotiation table. When you create this one to be a transactional activity, you are presenting a business case, then you are much stronger in front of any negotiation table to win what are you coming for to win.
You're absolutely right. I think we often as women want to explain why we deserve this instead of explaining why is it good for the company and
Exactly.
how will we measure the success of it, which is a much better argument.
Exactly. What's in it for me, it's for me. What's in it for the company, this is what needs to be spoken out loud.
That's your case.
Yes.
Sandra, thank you for joining us today. This has been a great conversation. I'm glad that you could make the time.
Thank you, Courtney. I loved it.